Okay, we are now on to prompt 7. This is the Bremen prompt. I adore this song. I sing it sometimes to my kids for bedtime, and equally so, I thought the video just had a lot going on. Just the song is sort of up for interpretation. It's got some stuff with animals. The video, if you watched it, has just a lot of cool images. So I figured plenty of things to draw inspiration from. Accordingly, I have no idea what anyone did with this song or how they interpreted it. So I'm just looking for good stories. The best story for this prompt will win the HM, and who knows, maybe the best story of the week is even in here. So let's see what we got. Okay, first up is Caligula Kangaroo with An Old Farmer Comes to See a Time Machine. Not the punchiest of titles, and not so great that the story then begins with those exact same words. It just, I'll be honest with you, it just feels lazy, and then I don't care, and you're already working from behind at that point. I will, cop to, as I have many times, not being a great reader, but don't assume your audience is going to be a great reader. And then there's polishing errors and tense errors, just things throughout this that just really dissuade me from engaging. I need things to be simple. I need things to be functional. I couldn't quite follow what the deal was with a lot of this. I don't feel like I'm going to be able to articulate this very well, but I understand that this was a farmer slash scientist, and arriving to the place with the things, and I don't quite understand like what's the deal with the contraption? What's going on with it? I don't know. I don't know, Caligula. I'm a little lost on this one. It was just kind of challenging for me to follow the thrust of what's going on here, if I'm being honest with you. I wish I had more clear feedback, but the story just didn't read very clear to me. Again, I'm not a great reader, so that is part on me, but gotta meet everybody where they're at. So that's all I gotta say about this one. All right, and then we move on to Anti-Vehicular's Small Comforts, which is not so much a story, but a remark, I suppose. Clearly drawing inspiration from the video more so than the song, which is totally cool. It's a very nice video. The note of transferring light. The issue, I think, with this one is that to me, the video actually tells a story of the light, and this piece isn't really a story, and that's fine. It's 100 nice words, but because I do know the video and I did see the story, I want more story here, I guess, which is, a biased take, but it is kind of what it is. It's pretty. The image is very striking. But again, it's more of like a remark than it is much of a narrative piece. Um, but it is a pretty little bit of reading. I will give it that, and I did enjoy it for what it was, and that is I think what it was. So, all right, next up is Phantom Muzzles is Sharing Our Stories. This is yet another sort of more of a remark than it is a narrative piece, and yet pretty, similar to Auntie's before it. I enjoyed sort of reading the descriptions. They are indeed very pretty and engaging. And I think of it, and again, very much drawing from sort of the narrative thrust of the video, but the video sort of connects these things more seamlessly because it kind of needs to. So I really enjoyed, though, the little descriptions of the beat as a companion piece to the video. It's actually really nice. So I almost wonder, if this would be something that the band would be interested in seeing, just because it sort of expands a little bit on that. Um, but apart from that, um, it is not something that I think stands sort of entirely on its own as a workable story, which I don't think you would have expected it to be. Um, and it's otherwise again a pretty piece of writing, so I did enjoy it for what it was, which is kind of what I feel like I'm saying for most of the things this week. Okay, and now we move on to Pensioners by Robert Dedford. Don't think I am familiar with you. Oh, yeah, you're new. Look at you. Well, relatively. You wrote a story um, February 10th of this year, and then another story this time. So welcome back. I'm not sure what brought you back, but I'm glad you're back. So this is so far the most storyish of all of the entries, so I appreciate it for that. Um, I think we do have a little bit much early on. The story sort of really begins in earnest about where is it? When Gerhardt shows up, which is about halfway through, and it's already a pretty short story. Apart from that, we have a decent bit of building up descriptions of who these characters are. The names being sort of dead on is an interesting choice. I'm not really sure why, but it works well enough. Um, I'm not entirely sure, though, what any of these people or animals, I suppose, want. Like, I get that Gerhardt wants back their stuff, uh, but I don't. I'm not really following where it went, why it's not here. I think I'm slipping here, so it's harder to follow these stories, man. It could be just that I'm tired, but I am. I don't know. It was a little challenging to tell kind of who wanted what and who was protecting what, and the prose was overall solid. I didn't see anything to sort of quibble at. So it looked good. It sounded good. It read clean, but um, couldn't really piece together much of what was going on in the story. So we'll take that for what it is. And then we move on to Defiant by Echo Cyan. I think that's how the name is pronounced. Probably have already commented about that. Anyhow, Defiant. It's a bit of a rant. Not anything that you're going to find people around here disagreeing with. The natural world being so beautiful, and all the bullshit that we're sort of doing to it. Yeah, sure. Not a ton of story happening here. Just an angry person, a justifiably angry person who sees through some bullshit, and so that's what we have for story, I guess. If we, again, we'll call it that. I don't think we really do call this much of a story. Which again, you're sort of well at home in this prompt because most people didn't go that way. These are remarks, pretty remarks yet again. So that's kind of what we're looking at. But I didn't get a ton of momentum here. So yeah, it was otherwise pretty okay. Um, Easy enough to read, flows well, but lacking in any sort of narrative structure, I guess, at least to my eye. And I believe closing out the week is Moon Touched by a friendly penguin. And if you're detecting a faint smile on my face, that is because I greatly enjoyed this story. Easily my favorite of the bunch. Probably because there's actual good story in it. And I was getting concerned that I was just not reading clearly there for a moment throughout this week. But then in the first paragraph of Moon Touched, I was like, oh, okay, here's a story. Here, so things are happening. And the pacing is awesome. I love that there's a little bit of mystery, but that we don't have to wait until the very end to find out. It's hard to sort of, plant that seed early on and then not, get back to it. But we have the lore of the moon, what happens with these drops, the description, and then boom, we figure out what it is in the best organic way, not through exposition, but just because it's incidental and it happens. And then what does one do with I don't know what would we call this? An urgent need to speak one's truth, I suppose. Not even one's truth. I guess it was. I think there were some things in here that made it almost seem, yeah, like you wouldn't even necessarily. It could be that this character is also able to know things about people that they couldn't possibly know otherwise. Anyhow, very very quality stuff. Enjoyed reading about it. Enjoyed the story itself. The prose is nice and slick. Everything just works for me here, so I don't really have much in the way of criticism apart from thank you. I'm going to give this an HM. I don't even give a shit. I'm just gonna say it. This is getting the HM for the week. At least it's my vote. I think Crab Rock is going to agree, but we'll see. Hooray!